What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Just a little disclaimer before we start. I'm a little under the weather. It's more just allergies, changing of the seasons. It's really the heat starting to pick up here in Ohio, so not going to stop us from making, awesome content like usual, but let's get right into it. Last week, we talked about Cooper Kupp, a player who I'm very high on for the upcoming fantasy season. Today, we're looking at a running back who I constantly see ranked as a top 6 back. Derrick Henry is a player I just can't get behind. I ranked Henry at the 8th spot when I did my running back rankings video, which if you're interested in, you can see the rankings video in the description below, or there'll be a notification at the top of the screen. I ranked Henry at my 8th spot, but the more I sit here and I do mock drafts and I really, ponder on the idea of taking Derrick Henry with my first round pick, I see myself bypassing Henry for pretty much any of the top 5 receivers, which are Michael Thomas, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. These are the top 5, consensus wide receiver names that you'll see across the board in the fantasy community, in whatever order you want to put them in. I also like the more obvious names at running back, pretty much the top 5 guys in front of him that are consensus as well, but I do like some uncommon names like Josh Jacobs, and yes, this may lose me some credibility, but Todd Gurley. I can even make a case for a few players behind Henry, like Joe Mixon, Austin Eckler, and Nick Chubb, all of which I like the talent more on these players than I do of Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry does not wow me as a player, and if I'm supposed to take this player with my first round pick, like Henry is going in rankings across the internet, I better love the player's talent. So today, we're going to break down Derrick Henry's 2019 stats and some game film. I'll show you why I think Derrick Henry is really just a big oaf at the running back position and not a special player. When looking at Henry's 2019 season, it really can be broken up into 2 separate parts. Derrick Henry in weeks 1 through 9 played in all 9 games, so didn't miss any games due to injury or a bye week. He carried the ball in this 9-game span 164 times for 644 yards, under 4 yards a carry at 3.9, and 6 touchdowns. This equals out to 18.2 yards attempts per game and just over 71 yards per game. If you take his averages and average them out over 16 games, he would have averaged or had 292 attempts, over 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Those numbers would have ranked Derrick Henry 15th in fantasy points per game in PPR leagues. He would have averaged 15.3 fantasy points per game. If you average that out over a full season, it would have equaled 244.8, which would have ranked him 10th. And let's be honest, we had some big running back injuries this year. Saquon Barkley only played 13 games and finished a point under Henry. Josh Jacobs only played 13 games this year, Melvin Gordon only played 12, and James Conner only played in 10. Now, that's just one side of the story. Let's look at the other half of Henry's season. In Henry's remaining 6 games, he rushed 139 times for 896 yards and averaged 6.45 yards per carry with 10 touchdowns. That equals to 23 carries a game and almost 150 yards per game. If you average those numbers out to a full 16-game season, he would have finished with 371 carries, just under 2,400 yards, and 27 touchdowns. This would have gave him 26.1 fantasy points per game. That would have finished him at number 2, right behind McCaffrey at that pace. And that's in PPR leagues. If this was standard, I think Henry would have got the nod. Before we get into Derrick Henry's film, I wanted to look at every carry in the game log from 2 games. These games both had high yardage totals from Henry, but they are a little misleading. In week 10, Derrick Henry rushed 23 times for 188 yards, so he averaged 8.1 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns. But in this game, he scored a 68-yard touchdown. Without that touchdown, he would have had 22 carries for 120 yards, which brings his average down to 5.4, which is still really good. I'm not trying to knock it, but without this, big touchdown run that I don't think was really that great of a play from Henry. I think the safety made a really bad tackle attempt and Henry ran right around him for a long touchdown. Would we have been excited about Derrick Henry without this long touchdown run? In that same game, Derrick Henry had 14 carries that went for 5 yards or less. Then he had 5 carries that went for 10 or more yards, and then that 68-yard touchdown. And again in week 12 against Jacksonville, Derrick Henry had a 74-yard touchdown rush that was pretty wide open. He had a nice play at the end to get past the last, chasing safety, but really everything up to that point was just well blocked. He just hit a hole and ran. Without that 74-yard touchdown, he would have ran the ball 18 times for 85 yards, which is still 4.7 yards per carry, which is pretty solid, but not spectacular. So in that same game, Derrick Henry had 12 carries that gained 5 yards or less. and only 4 carries that went over 10 yards. He just had that 74-yard touchdown that really inflated the numbers. The point in showing you all these runs is to really point out that the 250-pound running back Derrick Henry breaking these 70-yard touchdown runs, I just can't see it happening over and over and making it so repeatable. I just think it's a really fluky thing, and a lot of his games are based off those big runs that really inflated what would have been a pretty, mediocre day or just an average day, and really boosted it to, inflate his numbers to make him look a lot better than what he actually performed in that game. I wanted to compare Derrick Henry's career-long rushes with other running backs in similar size. Now, there's no true match for a 6'3", 247-pound running back like Derrick Henry, but the closest that I came to that I could really think of that were relevant players in the NFL were Eddie Lacy from the Packers a few years back and Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis. In Jerome Bettis' best 6 seasons in the NFL statistically, he had 5 rushes over 40 yards. Although Jerome Bettis probably isn't the best skills comp to Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry is a lot faster, I will admit that. Jerome Bettis is one of the guys that played at 250 pounds that was really relevant and had, a Hall of Fame career. Another guy that I thought of was Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy didn't really last long in the NFL, but he did have some big elite seasons for, 2 or 3 years with the Packers. In his 3 best seasons and really only relevant seasons, he had 4 carries of 40 yards or more. And in 2015, his last, really relevant season, he didn't even have a rush over 30 yards. So it's hard for me to really believe that Derrick Henry is going to be this complete anomaly at running back, this 250-pound machine that can just break off these big runs at will. It's just hard for me to believe that he becomes really the first guy at that weight, that size, to be able to do that consistently. Alright, that's enough stats talk. Let's get into some game film. Firstly, I want to show you Derrick Henry's inability to really stop and accelerate quickly to hit a tight hole or make a cutback lane. On this play here, you're going to see Derrick Henry take the handoff and run up to the line and kind of stop. He tries to stop at least. He does a little, stutter step and looks for an open hole. He finds the gap he wants to hit, but he doesn't have the acceleration, the burst to really get through the hole, and gets tackled for a very small gain. I think this is a prime example of what Derrick Henry can't do. Derrick Henry can't stop in the hole and hit that cutback lane I have in green. He has the end blocking the end rusher, so he has an open gap there if he wants to make that cutback lane. He's unable to do it and tries to just put his head down and run through that open hole that closes pretty quickly on him. On this play here, you're going to see Bengals running back Joe Mixon do what I really wish Derrick Henry could. He's going to do a little stutter step behind the line. He's going to hop in place, hop left and right, wait to find that hole and hit it hard and burst right through it and not get caught and not let the hole collapse in front of him. On this toss play here, look at Henry not be able to make a strong cut. He can't put his foot in the ground and just accelerate. He is wandering out there looking for a hole, can't find it, and instead of just putting his head down and running, he just kind of wanders into the pile. It's like he's on ice skates, not trying to fall over. Like he just doesn't have the balance. He's too big to really plant the foot and cut upfield. Let's look at Arizona running back Kenyon Drake make a cut. Now, this cut is a little rounded off, but you can see he never loses speed or acceleration coming off the cut. Where Derrick Henry does, Kenyon Drake can keep his balance and keep his speed up the whole time, hit the hole, and takes it for an 80-yard touchdown against Seattle. This play makes me crack up because Henry does such a good job of getting outside, using his speed and athleticism to get past the corner, and when he does, it looks so good, and then there's just no move at the end. I mean, the safety comes and just hits him. Derrick Henry tries to make like a little cut, like kind of like a step back or like a little stutter step, and he just gets his legs chopped out front underneath him, and he just falls down. There's no wiggle. If Derrick Henry isn't giving you the stiff arm to the face or lowering his shoulder, he can't make a move. He just, like right here, he gets undercut and falls down. And when I'm showing you these plays of kind of like counter plays of what Derrick Henry doesn't do, I'm trying to show you players that are going after Derrick Henry in drafts, like Josh Jacobs. Look at this play against the Packers. I mean, look, he cuts it up the middle, plants, cuts, makes 3-4 guys miss on this play. I mean, he really just the short area quickness. Derrick Henry doesn't even have anything close to that in his bag. Josh Jacobs is a great player, and, putting Derrick Henry above him, it's tough to do for me. Here's another play from Kenyon Drake. Look at the move he puts on Denzel Ward. He completely freezes Denzel Ward in his tracks. He gives him a little in and out move and beats him outside. I mean, Derrick Henry, I said it, doesn't have that in his bag. Kenyon Drake just did that against Denzel Ward, who might not be the best tackler at a corner, but is still a pretty, high-end corner in the NFL. The last set of plays I'm going to show you is just showing off Derrick Henry's inability to make simple catches. This throw is a little high, but if you look on your fantasy 1 through 20 list of running backs, any one of those guys make this catch, and Derrick Henry just isn't able to do it on this simple screen pass. This attempt to catch a football is horrible. I mean, it looks like you invited your unathletic friend who's never caught a football before and threw it to him, and he just kind of flails his arms out there and falls down. What was Derrick Henry even doing? This ball's a little, far out, but it's just a flail. It's not even an attempt to catch the football. So I just don't see how you're comfortable having an RB1 who can't catch the football really at all. Let's look at one of the best pass catching running backs in the NFL, Austin Eckler. He gets motioned out. That's something Derrick Henry will, rarely do and actually be expected to run a real route. Here, Eckler runs a stop and go, beats a corner, and makes a great over the shoulder catch. I mean, that's just a great play, and Derrick Henry does not have the ability to do anything near that. With the combination of stats and film work that I showed you today, I hope you really understand where I'm coming from on Derrick Henry. I just can't see how a 250-pound running back with really no wiggle in the secondary, not good acceleration or quickness really, and just all he has is his big size and speed, that he can consistently break off these big plays. If the situation goes wrong in Tennessee, I could see him being the biggest bust of the year because he really can't create on his own. He needs a good offensive line to get him going, to give him the runway he needs to hit the top speed. So with that being said, 2020 Derrick Henry, he won't be on any of my teams, and I'm good with that. I think I can live with the, not having the 250-pound running back that can't catch a pass. Alrighty, and that's it. That's my breakdown on why I'm avoiding Derrick Henry in 2020. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really do appreciate it. We just hit, I believe, 24 subscribers, really making it happen here. But in all seriousness, I really do appreciate it. If you guys have any interest in checking out my rankings video, they'll be in the description below, or they'll be probably at the end of the video. And I also did a video on why I love Cooper Kupp for 2020, and he's going to be one of my targeted wide receivers. So check that out as well. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next time.